Hey, hi, good afternoon, students. Uh, I hope everybody is just going through the recordings and just be practice. Okay, yesterday I have started with the JDBC. Okay, what is about the JDBC, and I just taken one example of the previous forms and explained about the JDBC and what it actually does and what is actually JDBC. Okay, so what are the components of the JDBC? Today I will also explain about the how to load the class in our Java program. Okay, so what are the required files to connect with the database? Okay, so what is actually each components works in our program? Like we have the class dot for name. Okay, so which loads the JDBC driver, and we have the driver manager get connection method. So to establish the database connections, we have the driver manager, and we have the statements. Okay, create statements and prepare statements and execute queries. Okay, so all these things we discussed today. So let me wait for 1 minute. Okay, I will start at the 4:05. Okay, then step into the class. Now, so JDBC is nothing but the database connectivity. Okay, to connect with the Java programs and the database, we use the JDBC. So I have already explained in the previous classes. Now we have the components which has driver manager, driver, connection, statements, and result set. So then first what we need to do. Okay, so first we need to like basic steps. So let me write it here, like how to start. Okay, or how to JDBC works, like a basic steps. Okay, these are the basic steps to, right? Okay, first what we need to do, first topic is to load the class. This is nothing but, okay, first topic is we have to load the class. This is a drivers class. Okay, so this class has to be loaded by using the, okay, by using class dot, okay, for name. So we need to first, what we need to do, we need to load this. Okay, so we need to load this JDBC driver class. We need to load the this JDBC class. Then what we need to do, we need to establish, okay, we need to establish the connection. Like how we can establish the connection, by using this connection. Okay, represents a session with a specific databases. So we need to create a connection between the database and the program. So here we need to take the connection class con driver manager. Okay, dot connection method. We have dot connection method, and this is an URL. Okay, this is an URL which is nothing but JDBC semicolon MySQL semicolon slash slash localhost. Okay, so check your port number. If your port number is 3307, you have to replace it with 3307. If your port is 3306 only, so leave it there. And here you need to give the database names. Like if you have the database name like e-commerce database, okay, so you are developing an e-commerce application and you are created an e-commerce database in your MySQL, so then you need to place that name here, okay, e-commerce. So here what is your SQL username and what is your SQL password, so then you can create a connection between the database, okay, connection between the database and the Java programs. Now next what we need to do after that, creating the connection between the database and the program, okay, you need to create the statements. One second. Create a statement object. Like now we are using the prepared statements, okay, prepared statement, prepared statement. Let me take as PS. So here we need to create by using that connection dot, okay, prepare statement. So why we use this prepare statement means, okay, so here the statements are there, right? So when you need to execute the queries in your SQL query, okay, in the SQL, so you need to use this statement. So this is the name creating by the name statement object. So here we have created one object and here we are placing the queries, okay. So and next we have the, we need to execute this query, okay. If you want to retrieve the data, you have to use the result set, and if you are inserting or deleting, you can use the execute update data. And then after that you can process, see, just take example as we are retrieving the data, so you need to execute the query, right? So execute SQL query. So for that we need to take the result set where the results is shared. Okay, so the result set will hold the data, whatever the query we executed, that will be stored in this result set. PES dot execute query. Okay, execute query. So now, whatever the statement you have written in this prepare statement, okay, like select everything from table name or something, any table name. Okay, so then that data, the why we using select means these are the keywords in the SQL. When you want to retrieve the data from the database, okay, you have to use the select keyword. Okay, so now that data will be retrieved, and when we executing this query, okay, when we are executing that query, that result data will be stored in this RS object. Okay, so that holds the data retrieved from the database. So then at the final, okay, if you want to process with that data, whatever the data is retrieved, that data if you want to process with that, okay, so you need to process the result set. Okay, so you can iterate with that. Okay, if you have large data, you can iterate through it. So what I can say is iterate over the result set object. We have the RS, right, to fetch the data. Like if you have a number of data, so row by row you can iterate through the RS. So last and final, we need to close that connection. Need to close the connection by using close method, on dot close method. Okay, so this is the basic way to connect with the database and how to manage the data and how to close the data. Okay, so here the main important is the class of the JDBC driver, which is nothing but com.mysql.cj.jdbc.driver. Okay, so this is a MySQL, okay, MySQL JDBC driver class. Okay, so this is an MySQL JDBC driver class. So this is a must. So first we need to load that class, right? So by using the class dot for name, we will load that class. So then we need this JDBC URL. Okay, JDBC MySQL / localhost and the port number and the database and the username and the password. Okay, so this is a basic sample of how to connect. Okay, so now we will write one sample program. Now how to like how to do connection. Okay, so here let me show you here itself first. So what we need in that is, so you need to take the class. Okay, inside the class we have the for name. Okay, for name, and you need to give the name of the class. Okay, so what is the name of the class? Com dot mysql. Okay, dot cj dot jdbc dot driver. Okay, so first we need to load the driver. Second, we need to connect that with the username and password. Imagine if you are the username as okay, most of the cases we also use the root itself. Okay, I'm using the root, and the password also string password. Let me take another variable, and password also I'm taking the root. Okay, so what we need the username and password we have, and now we need to connect with this. So for how we can connect, we use the driver manager. Okay, we use a driver manager dot, we have the method called as get connection. Okay, get connection. So inside this get connection we need to provide the URL. Okay, we need to provide the URL. So whatever the URL is there, okay, so like jdbc semicolon mysql semicolon slash slash localhost semicolon 2236. Okay, slash let me give the database as what we can take. Let me take the database as a college database. Okay, college database, and we have the username and password, right? So let me, here I stored that in the username, right? Whatever the username is there, I'm just giving here, and the password. So this is the way you need, this is a 3 lines. Okay, and if you have, if you want to give the username and password, you can give it here also. So these are just 2 lines you need to connect with the database. Okay, to connect the database we need one jar file also. Okay, and by including that jar file, okay, so we need to connect with our database. So after the connection with this database, you can create the statements. Where statement b is equal to, we have the connection here, right, in the con object. Okay, so that object has to be used here, con dot, okay, con dot prepare statement, and inside this prepare statement you need to give the query, right? Select everything from information table. Just imagine I'm just we have the information table, I'm just giving the table name. Let me take it as a student information. Okay, select everything from student information. So then you need to use the result set, okay, to execute the query and store it in the RS, which holds the data. And PS dot, okay, execute query. So now you have the data. Okay, now you have the data. You have established a connection between database, and then you uh, written a query to get the information from the database, and then you executed that database, and here we have the data of the RS. Okay, so if you have the number of rows, so you need to iterate each row, right? So you need to use the while loop, like RS dot, we have the next method, so which means the next row. Okay, so inside this while loop you can just like imagine if he has an ID. Okay, imagine he has an ID, you need to use this RS object, RS dot, if it is an integer variable, so you need to use it RS dot get integer and the name of that column. Okay, and the name of that column. And if you are retrieving the name of the person, okay, RS dot, it is in a variable type of string. Okay, so then you need to retrieve it. Okay, and if you have the age in here, and if it is stored, if it is stored in the third column or the fourth column, you can just simply give the column number also. Okay, simply you can give the column number also. And integer grade rs dot get int of 5. Okay, so this is how we will connect with the database and execute the query, and we have the data in the rs, so that rs has to be iterate through each row. Okay, so in the first row we will get one data, in the second iteration we get the second data. So if you have the how many number of data is present in that student information table, you will get the all the details. So then after that you are retrieving, then after retrieving the data you can just print it out in the output. Okay, print ln, and you can just say it as, okay, you can just like id, okay, plus slash n. In the new line you can like take a name, and here I can just include that name here, slash n, and age. Okay, let me give the age it here. So this is how you can use the connection between the database and you can retrieve the data from the database. So now we will do one example and I will explain what is actually happening here. See, here we have the class dot for name. Okay, so this will load the data. Let me write it out here. It will load the MySQL server at a runtime. Okay, at runtime it will load that driver. Okay, it will load the driver. Now what we have, driver dot get connection. So this will, what it will do, it will establish the data. It will establish connection to the database. Okay, it will establish the connection between the database. First, what we have done, we have load the MySQL server, then we have established the connection to the database, and then what here we have the prepare statements. Here it will prepare an SQL object, and then it will execute the query. Okay, it will create a SQL statement object. Okay, here it will execute the query. Execute the query, and we have the result. Okay, result set, and it will retrieve each data from each row. Okay, result set loop, here we have the loop, right? So it will retrieve data from each row, and after connecting and getting all the data, here you need to close that. Okay, connection dot close method. So this will, what it will do, it will close the data, it will close the connections, like to avoid the any, if you are leaking, if you are not closing that connection, so it might be uh, driven to the memory leaks. Okay, so you can write as drive to avoid memory leaks. Okay, you can avoid the memory leaks by closing that connections. So in, when you are writing everything, okay, so you need to use the try and exceptions method in our code. Try and exceptions, I think this is an exception method. So if you are using the try catch exceptions method, you can use it exception, or you can use the like class not found exceptions, because if the JDBC driver is not found, so it will give you the class not found exception. If the SQL syntax is we have any error, or if we have get any connection failure, you can use the SQL connect exception. Okay, SQL exception. So these are the different types of, okay, uh, e dot message. You can take e dot message, and you can take e dot print stack trace. Okay, we have the different types of methods, and this is for the catch SQL exceptions. If you have any, if you imagine if there is any like JDBC driver errors, so you can use a class not found exception also. Okay, so the major things here are, if you are using the rs or result set, also you can just close it here. Okay, rs dot close, you can use a close method here. Okay, so these are important, like you always you need to close the result set and the prepare statements also. Okay, you can close the ps dot prepare statements also. Okay, and you need to close the result set, and you need to close the finally the connections. Okay, so mostly try to write the code in the try and catch blocks. Okay, because instead of crashing our application, you can just simply give the message to the user, like if you have an error. Okay, and you need to use the prepare statements for safer. Okay, prepare statements, we have normal statements also, but they are not safer, because we need to concat the queries within a data. So here we are using the prepare statement. So this is the best way to go within a jdbc. And the jdbc url you have, right, this jdbc url, so that is an important, and a username and password should be equals to your configured sql. Okay, so you in your systems we will configure the sql, so that username and that user password has to be given to this. Okay, in this url. So next we will take one example by just creating one index page. Okay, wait, let me create one new, just 1 second guys. Yeah, let me share my eclipse. So we will create one project where we will set up the mysql. Okay, we'll create two new jsp files, let me close this everything. File, new dynamic web project, and let me create a file project as SQL connection project. Okay, next, generate web.xml, finish. And inside this SQL connect, inside the source, inside its main web app, let me create one new file. Okay, that new file has to be JSP, and just giving the index name, because in the welcome.jsp file we have the index.jsp file address. So when you run this SQL con project, it will directly open this index.jsp page. Okay, so index.jsp page, because why I'm created index.jsp page means when I open this web.xml, see in the welcome file we have the index.jsp, so I'm just taking directly index.jsp. If you want to change that name, you can change, and in the web.xml you need to keep that address. Okay, so whenever you want to open that, so before that we need to create the database for the users. Okay, so let me create one index file for that. Okay, here we are taking to, we'll ask the user to enter the details. Okay, basic details. So let me create one first form here. Okay, let me take one form, enter your details. Okay, and here to take the input, okay, from the user, we have to use a form, obviously. So in the form, I'm just taking one label, or you can just take the input. Okay, and in the placeholder you can say, you can ask him to enter the name. Okay, and here we need to take the name of that input, right? So let me take as a username, uname, and the required. Okay, and the type of this input, right? So the type of the input is text. Okay, so let me take another one. Okay, just like this, and let me take it as enter the email. So I'm just taking the email here, and what is the type? We have the email. Okay, so name, email, and let me take the age also. Enter the age, and here I'm taking the age and the required, and the type is a number. Okay, and here let me take another input. Why I'm taking this input is to take the submit button. Okay, submit, and I'm just giving the value as a register. Okay, so I'm just using the breaks here for each and every time to create a new line here. Okay, break. Now in the form, we need to take the two attributes. One is an action to process this data, and let me take the as a submit.jsp. Okay, let me take the data submit, and the action and the method has to be post. Okay, I'm just taking the post. So here the data submit.jsp page has to be created, right? So now let me create that page. Okay, so now what we need to do, whatever the data is entered in that page, okay, so that has to be retrieved here. Okay, let me retrieve. Before retrieving, I am using the try and catch method. So this is an exception. Okay, if you have any error in your code, it will catch that without crashing. Okay, e dot print stack trace. Okay, or you can simply say as out dot print ln as e dot message e dot get message. Okay, we can print that message. Now inside the try catch, you need to write the whatever the code you are willing to write. Okay, so now first we need to retrieve the name, right? So string name. So how can we retrieve? What is the name parameter he has given? User name. Okay, that username has to be send it here. Request dot get parameter of, okay, user name, and we use the string email. So request dot get parameter of email, and we retrieve the, we ask him to enter the age also, right? So that will be in the number. So I'm just using integer age. Okay, first we will retrieve it. Request dot get parameter of age. Okay, it is in the age, but what is the data type? Integer. So whatever the you are retrieving the data, that will be in the string format. Okay, so to format that, okay, we need to use the wrapper classes, which is nothing but integer dot pass int of request dot get parameter. So this now converts into integer request dot get parameter of age, that parameter. Now we retrieve the data. So after retrieving the data, what you need actually, so we first we need to create, we need to take the data from the user, and we need to save that in the mysql. So inside the sql, okay, inside the sql you need to create one database. Okay, let me share my mysql page. Okay, so we, I think it's not sharing. Okay, now here let me create one new, okay, let me create one new database. So create the database, and let me take it as a college db. Okay, and run it. Now let me refresh it. So here, okay, just we need to refresh this. It will let me close this and open again because it will sometimes it's creates a problem like that. Let me refresh that and share it again. Now you can see it here. Sorry, I just create and given the database name, but here we need to give the create database, okay, college DB. So then you can, when you run it, okay, see here query database. Now let me refresh this. Okay, see here you can see the college database. So inside the college database, here we are, when you click on the tables, we didn't have any tables, so it is showing nothing. So now you, what you need is you need to create, okay, you need to create the table for the user to store, okay, to store the user's information like his name, his email and age and ID. Okay, so for that, okay, here you need to select the database, okay, college DB, and here write the query and the create table. What is the table? Let me info, okay, or user info, okay, user info, and inside this first we need to take the user ID, okay, so this has to be big integer and primary key, so it has to be unique and it has to be auto increment, okay, auto increment, and we need to store the name, right? So the name has to be take varchar and take the size of 255, and email that has to be varchar of 255, and age, okay, and that has to be in the begin, okay. So just run this query and refresh this. See here we have the plus, okay, sign. Now in the database, when you click on the user info, see here you can see the user ID, name, email and age. So now we have created this table. So what we do, what we need to do now first we need to connect with this database, okay, we need to establish a connection between this database and our Java program. Then we need to write the prepared statements. By using the prepared statement query, you need to insert the data whatever the user has entered, okay, whatever the user has entered in this application. So here, so how you need to connect with the data? First, what you need to do, so you need to load the data, okay, you need to load that JDBC driver on this. Now class dot, okay, per name, okay, per name whatever the module, sorry, this is not the class dot for name string class name, okay, so that class name is com dot, okay, mysql dot cg dot jdbc dot driver, I think so, yeah, driver, okay. So what is here, it's getting here. Actually, sorry, here you don't need of any, yeah, here you need the okay, no, yes, now we have loaded that. After the loading, what we need to do, we need to create the connection, right? So here I'm just doing the connection by con dot, okay, con equals to, as I said, right, we have the driver manager dot, we have the method called get connection, okay. So get connection, before that we need to import our mysql, import our dot sql dot everything, okay. So then you will get the method call driver manager dot get connection. So here it asking the URL, so you need to give the URL as JDBC, okay, semicolon, JDBC semicolon, MySQL, okay, JDBC semicolon, MySQL semicolon / localhost, okay, and what is the port number? 3306. Okay, based on your port number you need to give that port number. Okay, so / and what is the database name? Just now we have created, right? college db college db. So then here you need to give the username of your SQL. Now my username is root, and the password also root, password also root, semicolon. Okay, so then now we have connected with the database. Okay, now we have connected with the database also. Now next what we need to do, we need to write the prepared statement. Okay, to write the prepared statement, ps equals to con dot prepare statement, and here you need to write the query. Okay, to insert the data into the SQL database we need to use the insert keyword. Okay, to which table we are inserting into user info table. So what are the fields you have given in the database? Okay, in the database I have taken the email, name and age. That name has to be given here. Name, email, whatever the names you have created with the database, that name has to be given. Okay, age, and here you need to take the values, and inside this you need to place the placeholders. So see how many details are you sending. These are three, so these three you need to set the values. So where are the values? These three here we have, right, name and email and age. So by using this object ps dot set string, the name is a string, so in the first placeholder, so this first placeholder is reference to the name, so that name has to be, the name is stored in this name variable, so that name has to be given here. Okay, so then what we need to do, we need to set the email. Okay, need to set the second placeholder, which is nothing but email, and the third we have the age. So but that data is in the integer, so we need to set that data in integer itself, 3 comma age. Okay, now we set the data. Okay, so then what we need to do, we need to execute this query. So if you are inserting data or updating data or deleting the data, you have to use the, okay, ps dot execute update. So this execute update will give you the integer result. Okay, integer output. So that's the reason I have taken the integer rows. Okay, integer rows, or you can say it as integer result. Okay, integer result. So it will, the ps dot execute update will give you the integer result, whether it is executed or not. Okay, based on this output you need to, like, see, if, okay, whatever the result is there, it is greater than 0. If it is executed, it will give you the like 1. Okay, so if it is greater than 0, so we need to print it out for the user. Print ln as, let me take the header file, and here itself, not here, h3 slash h3. Okay, data submitted successfully. Okay, now that means that query has executed, so your data has been successfully submitted. If it is not submitted, then you need to send him message, right? So same out of println submission, let me write it as submission failed. Okay, submission failed. So this is how you need to start load the data, load the JDBC driver, then you need to connect with the database, And after that, you need to write the prepared statements. Okay. If you want to insert, you need to insert. If you want to select, means if you want to retrieve, you can use a retrieve. So whatever the queries you are there, you have to give in the prepared statements. And that prepared statement, if you are using the placeholders, so then you need to set that placeholders with the values of that particular name, email, and age. And then you need to execute that query. Okay, whatever the query we have written in the prepared statement, that has to be executed. Based on this result output, you need to send him the message whether data is submitted successfully or not, or it has failed. Okay, let me, before running this problem, okay, you need the one jar file, okay, which is nothing but, let me check it in my Java softwares, jar files. We need the connector for that. Okay. In the library, I'm just pasting that. Okay. So we need, I think, MySQL's connector file. Okay. So let me run this project once. Run on server, get finish. Okay. Let me share this. Now it's running. 1 second, guys. Yeah. Now see here, whatever the page we have written into the details, it asking me the name. Okay. So without name, if I come register, it's showing me the error, and just entering the data, and just entering the age. Sorry. And I am just clicking the register. Okay, see, the data is submitted successfully. It is submitting the data successfully. Let me show it in my database. The Okay, so this is our database, right? So this is our user info. Let me click it on once again, and let me refresh this here. See here, the data is successfully inserted into our database. Name Radhakrishna, email, and age, and UID is a 1, because here we have an auto increment. Whenever the data is inserted, it will automatically increment the value. Okay, so this is how we need to use the database connections, and based on the connection, after that, if you want to retrieve, if you want to update, or if you want to retrieve the data, whatever you want, you can perform by using the database connection. So if you have any doubts regarding any installations, okay, uh, let me ask in the group. Okay, I will send you the installations video. Okay, like how to install the MySQL and SQL servers. Okay, thank you. This is about today's class, and for tomorrow class, I think we will go with the, like, what we can say as like a retrieving. We will do, like, we now we have inserted, right? So tomorrow we will do retrieving the data. Okay, so how to retrieve, and do, okay, then we will do one thing, how to retrieve the data, and how by retrieving the data. Okay, we will first, we will do one register. Okay, we will take one form, and we will register the data, and after registering the data, we will save that data in the username, and we will create one more login page. Okay, so now we will log in with the email and password. Okay, so now we will check with the database. Okay, so how we will retrieve the data, and how to validate that data, whether we are entering correct or not. Okay, so this is about today's class. And if you have any doubts regarding anything, you can just ping me in the WhatsApp, or you can just attend the classes and you can ask the doubts. Okay, and if you need any installations videos, let me ask. Just ping me in the WhatsApp only. I will send it the videos in the WhatsApp. Thank you.